Part and parcel in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma is the BVI Fire and Rescue Services headed by Mr. Zebulon McLean. Mr. McLean, I know for sure you have stories upon stories upon stories that you can tell us about what has happened since.
Well, from my own personal experience, there was quite a bit. I had to abandon my own home, and I eventually ended up in one of the shelters where I had to pretty much be pressed into service, bandaging and cleaning and sterilizing and stabilizing many, many patients. One in particular was a gentleman who was attacked by a pit bull. I'm not sure how many people realize this, but following a disaster, animals become extremely disoriented. Everything is different. The looks, the smell, the feel is completely different, and they have a variety of reactions. And unfortunately, for a young man in this case, the pit bull attacked him. So I had to pretty much treat about four major areas of his body that was ravaged by this pit bull. And
Yes.
there were, yes,
Where he was at the time this happened.
he was up on in the Crab Hill area overlooking Longlook, and the pit bull broke free of wherever it was tied and pretty much tried to attack whomever he could get his mouth on. And it happened to be this poor young man.
Okay, and this was after the eye and the tail of Irma had passed.
This was during the eye, actually. During the eye.
Okay, so there was no window at which you could rush the person to the hospital, so you had to step in with your expertise.
Yes, before the eye, the roads had already become impassable. And the clinic was obviously closed, so there was nowhere to go except to the nearest shelter, where I also was. I actually did my first 40. I was wearing just a pair of green shorts, jogging shoes, and a medical kit. But
Wow, wow, commendable. So, what would you say to people now that the situation has quelled and we're in a recovery mode? And yes, we know that the shelters and the kennels and all these storage places for animals now have been destroyed. How do you advise the persons in terms of continued care and protection?
well, I would advise them to approach animals very carefully because it might seem friendly and then something might spook them. It's a different world for them, and they're still trying to catch their bearings, so they might not be sure who's friend or who's foe. Some might be friendly, some might be not, but you should probably take it for granted that they're not and be very careful approaching them.
Okay, I mean, there are other stories. Tell me about those that you would have had a direct interaction with that probably persons would have sustained injuries
Mhm.
during the eye or the tail of that girl, Irma.
Yes. The two more prevalent types of injury I faced were either broken bones or sprains that occurred when people either tried to hold a door closed or open. There was a lot of swollen hands and dislocated wrists and that manner of thing. And also lacerations by flying glass. There were gentlemen and ladies who had glass embedded in their foreheads and the side of their heads. Their arms and their legs were cut to pieces by the flying glass. So you basically had to either extract the pieces and clean the wound, or you just had to deal with it. Some of the wounds were so deep it was down to the white of the flesh. But we don't have time to think about that. Someone is in need when we have to go. I did about 48 hours straight, bandaging and cleaning and all the different things.
48 hours straight, approximately how many persons in all?
Um, about 24 persons, I believe that was. About 24 or so.
Okay. And
Mhm.
I guess that, your other officers who are attached to fire and rescue would have had similar experiences in many instances.
Yes, many of them have only gotten maybe about 5 hours sleep total up to this point. They have been on the go ever since Alma pretty much was moving away from our area. They were doing rescues, they were doing stabilizations, they were doing searches, even up to the day. We have been looking for persons who have somehow managed to contact the authorities and ask for help. So we've been out there looking and searching and turning over in cellars, in basements, under beds, in bathrooms, in bedrooms, doing all that we can. And I must say, I'm very impressed by the officers who've been out there. It's been a very daunting task. And when you look at the state of the BVI right now, you would think that there's no way in the world it can come back together. But when you look at the other places in the world who's faced these disasters, today they're back on their feet. It's just a matter of starting somewhere and working your way back. It looks impossible now, but it's not. Because if others can do it, we can do it too.
Okay, Zebulon, on behalf of everyone in the territory, we want to say how much we salute, appreciate what you guys are doing, have done, and will continue to do for the territory of the British Virgin Islands after Irma and in the future to come. With this JTV News Hurricane Irma update, I'm Kathy Richards.